Good afternoon, Arenal. This week's art lesson is going to be about landscapes. I'm wondering if anybody remembers what a landscape is. I bet you do. It's art that is outside. So this is going to be like the country. It's going to have mountains. We're going to see some sky. You can also, when you talk about a landscape, you can talk about a seascape or a cityscape. They're all a little bit similar in that they have a couple of specific parts, which we're going to talk about in just a minute. But I wanted to reintroduce you to one of the artists that we have talked about in our class, which is Vincent van Gogh. So today we're going to be working on landscapes by Vincent van Gogh. Now, as you can see, this is not a landscape. This is a portrait. And over here we have like an outdoor scene. But there are going to be some similar things with the landscape. It's going to have some similar parts, and I'm going to talk about those parts in just a second. You're going to see what's really typical of Van Gogh's artwork, which is short brush strokes, lots of very short lines with different colors, and the different colors are placed next to each other in the painting. So these are the parts of a landscape. You're going to see the background, which is where the sky is. You're going to see the horizon line, which separates the earth from the sky. Horizon is the same as horizontal, which means it's going side to side. All of our landscape lines are going to be horizontal. This part of the landscape is called the middle ground. And you can see that in the middle ground, we have some things that are farther away. They're a little bit smaller. As we get closer to the front or bottom edge of the paper, which is called the foreground, you're going to see the trees, the houses, whatever objects are here in the foreground, flowers, plants, they're going to look a lot larger. So if you can look at my finger right here, as I'm pointing, it's close to the camera, it looks larger. And as I move it farther away, it's going to look a lot smaller. So that's the whole idea when you're working with a landscape. So when you do the background, it's not going to be as detailed. How we get the idea of the foreground to look real is you're going to do some overlapping into other parts of the picture. Alrighty, so on to more Vincent van Gogh. I know you recognize the Starry Night. You're going to see here the mountains or the hills are in the background. This tree is in the foreground, and it's going off the bottom of the page. The way that Van Gogh has treated the sky is very interesting. No other artist worked like this before him. The way he used very thick paint, which is called impasto, and he built up the paint on the background. He worked very quickly, and he mixed the colors as he was working. You can see black, blue, white, and kind of a turquoise blue are all blended together with these short brush strokes. In this painting, Vincent van Gogh uses a very similar sky. So this is called Starry Night over the Rhone, and the other one is just called The Starry Night. So he repeats some of his ideas. Look at the way he has done the reflection in the water with the light. The people are in the foreground. They still look kind of small, I think because we're supposed to be looking at this from far away. Here's another picture that is a true landscape, and it has a bunch of trees here, the same kind of trees we saw in the Starry Night, which are called cypress trees. And you can see in the background, look at what he does with his clouds, where he takes all of these different colors of blue and he uses swirly lines to create a very interesting sky. Notice that you don't see a round sun in the sky anywhere. Here's more Van Gogh trees. This is a great example of perspective. This tree in the foreground is close to us. It's much larger. And as they start to get farther away from us, they get smaller and smaller and smaller. Notice the way that Van Gogh uses his paint and color here, where he's using short, straight lines to show us the hills and the way that the hills move. He's using kind of a reddish brown and a lighter color. He's mixing 4 or 5 different kinds of paint. Same thing happening here with different colors, different kinds of green, and as we move further in back into the middle ground, green and yellow. This is a beautiful painting, again with trees, olive trees. Look at the way he draws his trees with very crooked lines, lots of movement going on in there. It almost looks like they're dancing. He uses short brush strokes to do the leaves in the trees. And in the hills, we notice that it's all different values of blue. Look at this big white puffy cloud coming in here in the background. This is probably my favorite tree picture of Van Gogh. And so I would like you to think about, when you're making your art, to add some trees in there in perspective. So make some trees that are close to us and make some small trees that are far away. Look at the way Van Gogh uses different colors to make shadows on the ground here. This is called one-point perspective, where you have 2 lines and they're kind of going towards a point in the background that we call the vanishing point. Look at the way he uses short lines around the sun as it's radiating out from the center. Okay, now it's almost your turn. Just reviewing a couple different kinds of lines. We've got sideways, we've got swirls, we've got curves, and we've got circles. Notice the way he uses different lines in different objects of his painting. Some of it almost looks like dots. So these are some examples of students copying Van Gogh's work. What I want you to work on is short lines today. Add something in the foreground, add something in the middle ground, and add something in the background. Have fun. You can do it. Just a quick little review there again. All right. Use some examples, add something in the foreground, middle ground, and background. Enjoy your lesson. Can't wait to see what you make, as always.